Alright, so here's your solutions to this study guide to follow along. Obviously the hope is that you tried it first and you're using this for support and not that you just watch and copy. So how do I factor out a common factor out of each expression? So both of these have numbers to look at. And I'm looking for the largest number that goes into 18 and goes into 63. So that number is 9. And then I divide. So 18 divided by 9, 63 divided by 9, and I factored it. In number 2, same thing. I first look at the number. What's the largest number that goes into 7 and 21? And you can take out 7 or negative 7. Both are correct. I'm going to factor out negative 7. And they both have algebra. So I take out the variable with the smallest exponent. That's called the greatest common factor, and then you divide. So negative 7 divided by negative 7 is 1. Subtract the exponent, so it's 1a squared. 21 divided by negative 7 is negative 3, and the a's cross out. Number 3, factor out. So what number goes into all three numbers evenly? So that number is 2. And they all have algebra, so take out the n with the smallest exponent. And now divide. So that's negative 6n to the 4. That's 18 divided by 2. 9n to the 1 when you subtract exponents. And negative 4 divided by 2. And the n's cross out. What's the largest number that goes into 20, 32, and 28? That number's 4. Take the p with the smallest exponent and then divide. It's okay to not put them in order. Make sure you subtract the exponent as you're dividing. And you can always multiply to see if it equals what it was before. Alright, on to the next group. When I have a binomial and subtracting, this is an indicator that it's a difference of squares. So for a difference of squares, we're going to square root each one. So the square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 36 is 6. And then we write down x and 6 twice. And one's adding and one's subtracting. So number 6, again, it's a binomial that's subtracting. So I'm going to square root 49 and x squared. I'm going to square root 36. So what number times itself is 49? And then take the exponent and divide it by 2. What number times itself is 36? And then write it down twice. So 7x and 6, 7x and 6. One's adding and one is subtracting. Oh, there it is. Number 7. Again, it's a binomial that's subtracting. So I'm going to square root. So the square root of 49, n squared, and the square root of 9. So what number again times itself is 49, and then divide the exponent by 2. What number times itself is 9, and you have 7n and 3. One's adding and one is subtracting. Square root of 16n squared and the square root of 1. That's 4n and 1. So we write 4n plus 1 and 4n subtract 1. Alright, so that's called a difference of squares, where it's a binomial and subtracting. Now we're going to do a trinomial. So a trinomial has 3 terms. If it's just 1x squared, it's simple. And so the last number goes on top, and the middle number goes underneath. And I need to know 2 numbers that multiply to 12 and add to negative 8. So those 2 numbers are negative 6 and negative 2, and you factored it. For number 10, the top number is going to be 80 and 2. What 2 numbers multiply to 80? And, it's negative 80. That's important. And subtract to 2. So that's going to be 10 and negative 8. Again, you shouldn't be just copying the video, but you should try it first. Put your best effort, then play the video. So we have negative 40 and 3. So 2 numbers that multiply to negative 40 and the same number subtract to 3. So that's 8 and negative 5. Number 12. Again, press pause and try it. two numbers that multiply to 6 and the same two numbers add to 5 is 3 and 2. Number 13, two numbers that multiply to 48 and the same two numbers add to 14, 8 and 6. Two numbers that multiply to negative 40 and add to 3. Didn't we just do that one? Where did I do that one? Like right here, right? Is that the same one? It's the same question. Different letters. Ha. Oops. So n plus 8, n minus 5. All right, turn the page. All right, now these are not simple trinomials. So I need to go the first number times the last number. So 2 times negative 15, and then 1r. And now we do the same work we just did, which is two numbers that multiply to negative 30 and add to 1. So that's going to be 6 and negative 5. And we write down 6 and negative 5. But it's not over yet. Now we take the leading number and divide both numbers by it. So if those numbers divide, so 6 divided by 2 is 3, then you write it down. But if it's a fraction, it must be in lowest terms, and then you can slide the denominator in front, and you have the two factors. All right, try number 16. 3 times 2 is 6, and negative 7. Press pause and see if you can find the numbers that fit. They're negative 6 and negative 1. That's what we write down. And then we divide by 3. So 6 divided by 3, and slide the denominator in front. Number 17, press pause and try it. So the two numbers are negative 10 and 3. Then divide by 6. Now these need to be written in lowest terms. So 10 over 6 is a fraction. They don't divide evenly. What number goes into 10 and goes into 6? We can divide it. So that's 2. So 10 divided by 2 and 6 divided by 2. What number goes into 3 and 6? It's 3. 3 divided by 3, 6 divided by 3. Now I can slide the denominator in front. Number 18. Press pause and try it. 4 times 3 and 8. So the two numbers are 6 and 2. Take the leading number and divide both numbers by it. Again, they need to be written in lowest terms. So we're going to divide by 2, top and bottom, and then divide by 2, top and bottom. Now I can slide the denominator in front. All right, so that was practicing when you have to slide the denominator in front and divide. Now these are 4 terms. So how do I factor 4 terms? Is I look at the first 2 terms and factor out the greatest common factor. So the largest number that goes into 32 and 20. So I write that down, and then the v with the smallest exponent. And then I divide. I look at the last 2 and do the same thing. What number goes into 24 and 15? And then divide. And if you did it right, these should match. And then we write down the matching factor, and then we write down what's in front of each factor, and it's done. Again, 4 terms. Look at the first 2, x squared and divide. Look at the last 2. What number goes into both? That's 8. That's the largest one. And I'm going to go negative 8 because the third term is negative. And then divide, and you get 7x minus 5. The factor that matches, and then what's in front of each factor. Two more like this. Factor out the first 2. That's b squared, and then divide. Factor out the last 2. That's a 2. And divide. And then write down the matching factor and the 2 and what's in front of each factor. All right, your last chance to try it first. To press pause and try it. So we're going to factor out a 6x squared and divide. I'm going to factor out a 5 and divide. And then the matching factor and what's in front of each factor. All right, great job. Last part here is dividing and simplifying by factoring. So if I have x squared subtract 9 divided by x plus 3, I'm going to write it as a fraction. The numerator is a difference of squares. So I'm going to square root x squared, and I'm going to square root 9. And so I have x plus 3, x subtract 3. So I write the numerator by factoring the numerator. Then, if something matches, I can divide it out, and what I'm left with is x subtract 3 is my answer. All right, let's try that again. We're going to write it as a fraction. I'm going to factor the numerator. So two numbers that multiply to negative 2, and the same two numbers add to 1. So that's 2 and negative 1. So we have 2 and negative 1. And then divide out the common factor, and then you're left with your answer. All right, we're almost there. All right, write a fraction. X squared subtract 4x plus 3 over x minus 1. Look at the numerator and factor it. So the two numbers here are negative 3 and negative 1. So two numbers that multiply to 3 and add to negative 4. And then x subtract 3 divides out, and you have your answer. Last one, write it as a fraction, and then factor the numerator. So two numbers that multiply to 6, and the same two numbers add to negative 5. So find those two numbers. Then match and divide out, and then what's left that you didn't cross out is your answer. Mr. G Math over and out. Great job studying for your test. Good luck. Till next time.